Okay, so good evening again, everybody, and welcome to Free Minds on the same page right now. This is a mutual exchange of hope and healing between incarcerated poets in our community. My name is Carlos. I am the facilitator for Free Minds Education and Community Building Programming. We have a very special guest host with me tonight. And it's a great honor to be with her and introduce to you Lashonia Thompson-El. She is a tremendous leader and has worked tirelessly to bring peace and healing to DC. Lashonia is one of the district's leading retroactive justice practitioner, and she is an expert in gender responsive criminal justice reform. She is the founder of The Wire, Women Involved in Reentry Efforts, and executive director of Peace for DC, and an author. Her book is called Through the Wire, My Search for Redemption. Lashonia has also been working closely with Free Minds on our work around restorative justice, leadership development, and member-led advocacy. Our featured poet ambassadors tonight are Free Minds Member Quenten and Free Minds Peer Support Specialist and Restorative Justice Project Lead, Craig Watson. We thank you all for joining us for our November Right Night. I definitely want to extend a warm welcome to those returning night writers and to any volunteers that are here for the first time. Remember, do remind you this one thing: when you post anything in the chat, always click everybody, just to make sure we all read your comments and stuff like that. I'm so excited to see so many of you here. Our incarcerated poets will be thrilled to know how many community members are supporting and what cities and state they're here. I was amazed when I heard Brazil. Here's how we'll go tonight. We will have a conversation with Quentin and Craig, and we will have a chance to answer any of your questions till about 7:25. So please put any questions you have in the chat or in the questions and answers button below at any time. Then we will give you some quick tips on how to use our platform Miro to give the poetry feedback. We will all be joining on the same page. So now let me turn it over to Lashonia, who will introduce to us Craig and Quentin. Lashonia.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. And I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to read Quentin's bio verbatim. He returned home 2 years ago after serving 27 years in prison and hit the ground running. Quentin graduated from Prison Cells to PhD program that provides educational and career counseling to incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men and women. He now serves as a program mentor. Quentin volunteers biweekly at ACTS, and that is a nonprofit that provides support for people in need of shelter, food, and other basic needs. He works full-time as an HVAC technician and is a college student at Northern Virginia Community College, majoring in social science. He is pursuing his certification in substance abuse rehabilitation. Quentin's work has been published in the Free Minds anthology, When You Hear Me, You Hear Us, Voices on Youth and Incarceration. He has written 3 books, and one of them is an autobiography that's coming out soon. And he always writes with the purpose of inspiring those who are in need of growth and healing. Quentin also speaks with diverse audiences as a Free Minds poet ambassador. Next, I'll read Craig's bio. Craig was sentenced to 35 years to life at the age of 17 and returned home after serving 22 years in prison. In 2017, under DC's Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act, also known as IRA, Craig became the first Free Minds peer support specialist after developing curriculum and participating in extensive trainings. Craig conducts weekly emotional wellness check-ins with returning individuals and supervises other members who serve as mentors. Craig served as Free Minds Congressman John Lewis Fellow in 2021, and he uses his lived experience to promote nonviolence and racial equity, and is now a Free Minds lead for our new restorative justice project with our partner, the nonprofit Network for Victim Recovery DC. So I'll start off with Craig. I'll start off with Quentin.
Yes.
And Quenten, I know we're going to hear a poem from you in a second, but before we hear your poem, can you tell us what role has writing played in your life when you were incarcerated? How did writing change you and help you to heal and connect with others? And I'm thinking maybe you wrote your autobiography when you was incarcerated. I know I did.
Correct.
We have so much time on our hands to write when we're incarcerated. So please share with us about what that experience was like, even writing your autobiography and the healing power of that process.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to be here. I'm honored to be here with y'all once again on the panel. As far as me writing, what it did for me while I was incarcerated, it was therapy for me. It allowed me to be able to express my feelings on paper to somebody they don't even know me, but it's a cleansing thing to be able to, sort through your thoughts and your emotions. And it's almost like dissecting yourself to see why you think, the emotions and feelings that you're going through, living in an abnormal and dysfunctional environment and just trying to keep your sanity. So, and it helped me grow as a person, not just, verbally, but being able to communicate and connect with others who are feeling the same things that I'm feeling. But, you have this image that's built up that, you don't want to show any weaknesses and things of that nature. So by expressing those feelings on paper and letting somebody else read them and they give you your comments, it's like, it's empowering, it's uplifting, and it allowed me to be able to make sense and keep my sanity inside of a dysfunctional environment.
Quenten, real quick, I have to express, right, that it's been a gift and a blessing, right, to be around you and hear your poetry. So I'm definitely anxious to hear your poem that you titled Forgiveness.
Okay, forgiveness. Okay.
Make the choice to forgive. Excuse me.
Make the choice to forgive. Okay. Make the choice. I believe I wrote this poem in 2015. Okay, and the name of it is Make the Choice to Forgive by Quenten Sims. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. It's an act of cleansing your inner spirit from all the toxic emotions buried deep down inside your heart against those who have done you wrong. Holding anger is a poison. It eats you from the inside, which creates conflict and turmoil, a living hell. Hating is not a weapon that attacks the person who harmed you. It's a curved blade, and the harm you do to yourself. The ability to forgive is a weapon that God has given us to survive in this cold, cruel world we live in. It has the power of turning your worst enemies into your most trusted and loyal friend. The basic aspect of life that's most important is the choices you make. Each choice you make is a choice of intention that creates the life you live. So choose a life lived with love, peace, and happiness. All you have to do is make the choice to forgive.
Wow, man, listen, powerful words, and there's so much to say about that poem, right? But first, right, you do have another poem that's written by one of our Free Mind members, Demetrius, and it also fits like right into your forgiveness poem. Can you read that for us as well?
Most definitely, it'd be a pleasure. This one is I Cry, and I connected to this poem off the break because I relate on so many levels. By Demetrius P. I cry for love that's never ending, an ear that listens and a heart that's forgiving. To hear my cry deep down in the trenches must be special or heaven sent. To hear my cry in response with open arms must be connected like a mother with her newborn. Now that's love, and that's why I cry. To experience the love, I will lay down my life. I cry, I cry. I cry in silence. I'm too worn out, emotionally drained, so I tend to lash out. I cry for comfort and a little support. Love is blind, and it can open up doors. Replenish the soul and build up courage. Give meaning to life and give a purpose. I cry.
Wow. Listen, these are great two poems, and they go like side to side. But specifically about your poem, like I'm wondering, like, You say you wrote that in 2015. Like,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind, or what was your experience as you wrote that?
I guess it was with me. I was learning to forgive myself for what I took my family to, and most importantly, what I took myself through. So it was a way of me expressing myself, and I wrote that letter. I mean that poem, and gave it to my mother, because it was like forgiving. It's like it's the only way you free yourself from that baggage of guilt, shame, and feeling less than. But to forgive, it's like I say, it's like a 2-ton weight was lifted off my chest, and now I can look up and I can say, okay, I don't harbor any feelings of anger and frustration, which becomes toxic, and it poisons your inside by not forgiving. And you think that you holding this in and you harming these other people, but you're harming yourself, and you prevent yourself from being able to grow as a person. So to forgive a person, you were really doing the service to yourself. You know what I mean? And like I said, it frees you.
Yeah, that's impactful. I personally like the part where it says it's an act of cleansing your inner spirit from all the toxic emotion buried deep inside your heart.
Right.
That's deep. Lashonia, what are your thoughts on the second point?
Made me think about Life Jennings. He have a verse in one of my favorite songs called "Cry," where he say crying is like taking your soul to the laundromat, or that feeling that you get when you see your grandmama smile. Right. But I gotta admit, Quenten, hearing you talk about this as a man, as a man who've had your experiences is especially refreshing for me, because it makes me think about healthy masculinity. And as Carlos said when he read my bio, I do a lot of work in the community violence intervention space, criminal justice reform, and social justice space. And it's really important to me that we learn to break down those gender biases and those stereotypes that keep us divided. And I think one of the challenges is that some of it is cultural. Some of it is learned behavior, where we don't know how to create gender roles that are mutually exclusive or mutually beneficial, I should say, to one another. And we teach men and boys that it's not okay for them to cry, or it's not okay for them to be emotional, or to even be hurt, and that they should really just suck it up and be a man about it. So tell me about, like, for you to come to a place where you could write this poem, as I said, as a man with your lived experience. Like, what are your thoughts about healthy masculinity, and why do you think it's important for us to live up to the values you expressed in this poem?
It's like it's a vicious cycle of misinformation, education being taught to the younger generation behind us, and even to myself, about, as you spoke on so eloquently, about not crying, not showing your emotions. But we are complex individuals. I learned from in there. I'm a human being. I'm not a robot, and I'm not an animal. I don't go off instinct. We deal with feelings and emotions. And you have to be able to express that, because if you don't, you walk around like a pressure cooker, and you just keep stuffing these things in. Eventually, you're going to explode, and they explode, and you see these different acts of violence, because you are taking it out on misdirected anger on people who's not the problem. The problem lies within yourself, and that's what I had to come to grips with. I said, in order for me to live a healthy life, I have to step out that comfort zone and be courageous enough to say, hey, look, it doesn't make me less of a man to cry, to show my emotions, because I'm human. I hurt. And then the funny thing about it, when people see that, you show your emotions, not me talking about, to be showed a weakness, because you can be a cold-blooded man, but at the same time, hey, I'm human, and people gravitate to that. And the funny thing about it, you'll find people who project that tough guy image. They're coming to you when no one else is watching and say, man, I'm feeling what you're saying. I can relate to that. But it's just, I got to get past this image, get past this facade, show the realness, and and you'll be surprised how many people gravitate to you. I understand, I feel what you're going through. I empathize with what you're going through. How can I, what do I do to break that cycle of toxic masculinity, to bring about a healthy masculinity? Let's communicate. Let's talk as men. I respect you as a man. You respect me as a man. We don't have to, run around with this tough guy, tough Tony act, you respect that man. Man, we're going to respect the man because he's cold-blooded man, because he knows that he's going to show all the different emotions about himself. And he's not afraid of what people feel, think, or say about it, as long as you don't step out there and disrespect me. But that's what we are as a people. People respect that, and they see strength and courage, and they gravitate, and you'll see how many people's lives you can touch just by stepping out and showing your emotions, whether either verbally or putting it on paper.
Powerful words and well said, Quenten. Let's turn to Craig real quick. Craig, same thing, man. With this virtual platform, this outlet, it's been a gift and a blessing to have met you through this means, and we have been working together on a partnership with Network for Victim Recovery of DC and NVR DC to make restorative justice more accessible to the DC community. Restorative justice is at the heart of what we do and who we are. It is in that mindset, and this is the mindset is one of the most important in the work that we do, Craig, as peer support specialists. Will you tell us something about your experience with restorative justice, and what impact did this have on you and in your journey?
In 2011, I wrote a letter. I just was sitting in a cell, but I always wanted to talk to my victim family. You know what I mean? Let them know how I was sorry, and all that. But in 2011, I wrote a letter. I just sat in the cell and wrote a letter to him. And I just knew I would never get that to him. I had the opportunity to talk to him, but I just wrote that letter and just kept it. And then when the Iowa law was passed, when I met my lawyers, first thing I told them, I'm trying to get this letter to them, to the family. They ain't know how to do that, but they connected with somebody, and their letter wound up getting to them. And I wound up meeting the victim, my victim father. He came to see me when I was at DC jail on the resentence on Iowa. And just meet him, man. He came in there frustrated and mad at me, but once he left, man, he was laughing and joking, and it was just so much. It was powerful, man. We talked about so much, man. And when he left, my lawyers told me that he reached out and he was like, he wanted to help me get resentence. He wanted to testify at my resentence. And it was just so powerful, man. That man testified at my resentence. And it was just so much. We built a father and son relationship. I've been home 3.5 years, and to this day, we communicate, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. And it's just so much powerful. And I witnessed that restorative justice. You know what I'm saying? And it took a lot out of my shoulder just to build that relationship with him. You know what I mean? He sit across from that man, he forgave me for, for his, playing a part of his son not being here no more, man. And I think that was something that stuck with me. And I know a lot of people, and to be honest with you, I don't think I might can't do that. I might can't never, if that situation would have happened and it was my son, I probably would never forgave somebody. I don't know, because I'm not in that situation. But he did. So that's why I push for restorative justice, man. And I understand, the power of healing, man. You know what I mean? Just healing that community in a community is powerful, man, because you got so many people that's coming home, and we going right back to these communities, coming right back to DC, where, people that we done harmed is there. Like everybody not gonna want to be around people they hurt. Everybody not gonna be around people that hurt them. So, but we got to coexist somehow, some way. So what we gonna do? That's why I push for it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to be at a place in your life where you feel comfortable doing that, where you can forgive yourself, hold on to that. But at the same time, man, you just got to keep moving forward. So that's why I push for that. And I connected with Sean and Restore Justice, man, just to, share my story and keep moving forward and spreading the word, because at the same time, we don't know. You know what I'm saying? We don't know the pain that we cause people sometimes. And, you know, a lot of us was young when we caused that pain that we just ain't know. We know now.
And I definitely like commend you like on the courage because it takes courage to make that kind of outreach, right? And you know, in support of restorative justice, right? But at the same time, like I also got to commend you on the construction of yourself, right? Because that's where it started at first in order for you to, you know, take that into the community. So I definitely commend you for that. But you also wrote a poem for us, right? That you would like to share with us?
Yeah.
It's titled The Act of Violence.
Yeah, I wrote this poem last year when I think when we was talking about, we had a restorative justice meeting. And just to think about, like I say, the impact of, man, your violence, man. Like it's just so much. It ain't just one person that, you know, from that act that you know, man, that you heard, man. You heard so many people. I'm gonna say me. I heard so many people by my actions, not just the family of the victim, my family. I heard the whole community, and they still hurting from this day from that situation. But this is a poem I wrote last year, titled "The Act of Violence." Violence is not just an isolated act. Violence is an act that can have a real impact on those that is done to, as well as those that commit the act, as well as both families. The impact of violence can be a lifetime effect, physically as well as mentally. Violence has an effect from a generation. The only way to heal from violence is if the one that commit the act and the one that had the act was committed to, and the community work together to not only heal each other, but to prevent violence from happening.
That's powerful, man. You also picked another poem by one of our Free Minds members, Brandon. It's titled Alone. Can you read that for us?
Sure. This is a poem that I picked by Brandon called Alone. At peace, when I'm alone, some lack the discipline to sit still and be alone. The things I think about bringing happiness to my soul. When I'm alone, my thoughts are endless. There I get to travel to places where these thoughts are painless. When I'm alone, it's a chance for me to come into my mind. And it's here where I'm actually where I want to be, home.
Lashonia, what do you think about this poem?
Yeah, this poem is a beautiful poem, and it reminds me of mindfulness. Because, right, we can have mindful moments or we can live a mindful lifestyle, which basically means always trying to live in the now, being present in the moment. And we can also have mindful exercises like yoga or meditation. And for me, it's like, I always like the meditation bowl, or I want to be guided in my meditation. And so not everybody wants to be alone when they meditate, but I think we can all agree that being able to be alone is a good thing. But it also makes me wonder if sometimes our experience of incarceration has made us more prone to wanting to be alone rather than wanting to be in community with our family or others who love us. I guess I could speak from experience. After serving 18 years in prison and being away from my family so long, family reunification has been one of my biggest challenges to reentry. And I've been home for 10 years now because I've gotten so accustomed to being alone. And so it has a dual meaning to me, which is why I love poetry. And as I'm listening to the poetry tonight too, I'm thinking poetry is mindfulness also, because you have to be in the moment to listen to the words, to try to decipher the meaning, because it can have different meanings to different people, and it may be even more than one meaning to each person. So yeah, I love to hear from anybody else, Craig or Quentin, about, you know, this notion of being alone. And again, we know it's a good thing to be alone because you got to be able to live with yourself. But how does being incarcerated impact our desire to be alone? Because too much solitude is also unhealthy. I think we can admit.
Well, I think I'll speak on it first. You know, over the 27 years of my incarceration, I learned to become my best friend. Being alone, I was able to dissect myself, you know, my inner thoughts and my feelings, and be blood red raw with it. What makes Quenten tick? It's a place of comfort and solitude, you know. And as you say, too much of anything is not good for you, and it's because we're social beings. But I learned I don't have to. Sometimes, up until a point in my life, being in my head was the worst place I could be alone. You know what I mean? But once I started understanding what made Quenten tick and why, you know, I did the things I did as far as acting out, venting, then I was able to get in touch with my inner soul and my longings and yearnings of who is Quenten? What is Quenten? What is his hopes, dreams, and aspirations? What does he want to do? How does he connect with anybody, with the people around him to be able to, like, you know, you have to know yourself. I guess this is what I'm saying is that you have to learn to know yourself and be at comfortable at peace with yourself before you can really connect with others. And then it's easier for you to connect because you see yourself reflected in that other person because you've been inside yourself, and you understand the human aspect and know that everybody is different. There's all different complexities of people, but you see the beauty in everybody. You see the connectiveness. You don't see the division. You don't see the difference. You try to look for the connectiveness in each individual, and you help each other grow. And I think that starts within self, and you have to be alone sometimes. No, you have to be alone at times and be comfortable with yourself.
Thank you, Quenten.
Okay.
Craig?
Definitely want to speak on alone. Like, I like being alone, love being alone. But I think it's a totally different from being alone and being isolate yourself or just being antisocial. You know what I'm saying? Like, I found myself when I was alone. Even right now today, I spend a time alone just to, you know me, to spend time with myself, to just think about so much. You know what I mean? But I'm never gonna miss an opportunity to be with you know, none of my brothers, my sisters, my family members, and none of that, my friends, and none of that. But at the same time, I'm gonna always make time for myself to be alone. Just like I did in prison, I do it when I'm home. I just lock in and just spend time with myself and try to figure out what I want to do. Like, you know, what can I do better than what I'm already doing? What can I add to? What type of people I can connect with? Can I connect with other people or whatever? Or probably people that I probably need to cut off. I got to sit back and think, because at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for me, right? So I got to be alone, put all these distractions out the way, if I could really lock in. And the only way you could do that, only way I could do that is being alone.
That definitely, like, self-care comes first, and that's like the way you describe it. That's the way, you know, it's been healthy for you to do it like that. We do have a question in the box. It says, how do we get the general public to understand better what restorative justice is? I hear the word a lot, but when I talk to others about it, they don't understand it. And anyone, you could answer it.
I'll jump in just briefly. So restorative justice is a philosophy, a way of life, a way of being. It can also be a program or a service, but it's basically an indigenous practice where people come together to discuss harm, to repair harm, and to atone for harmful behavior without policing, incarceration, arrest, or any of the carceral systems. So they come together amongst each other with the person who caused the harm, the person who was harmed, and the community that was impacted. And they talk about what happened, what do we need to do to make it right? And they come to an alternative agreement that doesn't involve punishment, but it could be, for example, this is a petty example, but when I was working at the OAG as a restorative justice facilitator, we used to get a lot of cell phone snatches. And some people would say, I don't want to see this kid get a criminal conviction because he snatched my phone, but I do want him to understand that that was not okay. And I need him to replace the value of my phone. So I'll give this young person 1 year to pay me back $50 a month and replace the value of my phone, but I also want to sit down and talk to them about how harmful that was to me when they snatched my phone. And so restorative justice is an alternative way of dealing with harm and crime that doesn't involve punishment, basically, is the easiest way to put it. And Craig?
And it ain't something that's forced to do. I mean, it ain't nobody forcing you to do it. Like, you gotta be, both sides gotta be, you know, in a place in their life where that's what they want. And they trying to get somebody to come in between them who facilitate that. Because we don't, I mean, I'm gonna say me, I don't know how to go to somebody, you know what I mean? Like, not somebody that I really wrong, like a misunderstanding or something, man. But I'm talking about my situation, how it was. I didn't know how to do that. Even though I wrote that letter, I knew that letter, I wrote it because I knew I would never be face to face with that family. But I wrote that letter like I was face to face with that family. It was something I just knew wasn't gonna never happen though. But at the same time, I feel like just having that opportunity, man, you just, like I say, got like, people just gotta be in a place in their life where things occur. And you just gotta keep pushing for it. And that's with anything, man. Cause you know, like a lot of times we be quick to say we'll do this, do that, until it happens to us or happen to our own family, loved ones. What we gonna do is we gonna do, you know what I mean? Like even with my mother, you know what I mean? She be like, you know what I mean? On people just let that go. I'm like, how about I was on the other end of that situation. How you'll feel. You know what I'm saying? So we just it gotta be, you know, what you want and where you at in life for you to make that type of connection and really want that. That's why I continue to push forward and educate people on that and share my story. You know what I mean? Because it's not saying, it's not for everybody, because everybody's not in that place. But it's possible. I done seen.
Yeah, thank you. Quentin, you got something added to that?
And you know, here's the thing. As I was listening to Craig and Lashonia speak, it's like my mind went back to when I was incarcerated and the classes I took and the things we talked about. And the four main classes that came to my mind was victim impact, right?
Remember that?
Effective communication, explaining about what you did to this victim and what was the impact of this victim in the family, you know what I mean? And conflict resolution, resolving this conflict, because it created a lot of pain and hurt and resentment. And it brings about the emotional intelligence, being emotional, understanding your emotions. And before it gets to a breaking point where you do something that's violent, being able to express through your effective communication, what are you feeling? What's going on with you? Let somebody know where you at, you know, because once you set that energy in motion, here it is. It's a disaster. Now you have all these people affected by your act because emotionally you were not mature enough to be able to express yourself verbally to convey your inner emotions and feelings. So these are the four things, and I'm glad I listened to y'all speak because it just brought me back and it just reinforces things that I took, you know, classes I took and what are seen to being applied in the real world and how true it is, you know. So that was on my mind.
Thank you, Craig. And one last question. We got a question from man. It says, all your poems are amazing. Are there other ways you express yourself and find the same release and comfort that writing poetry offers?
Can I say one thing? Yeah, I got into painting. My girl got me into painting. We go to these springs. Matter of fact, we go to a spot over here by the National Harbor called the Muse. We go in there and paint, and people drink wine and stuff. But it's like a social area, you know, event that you go in and you paint. You can express yourself through paint. It might look crazy, abstract, whatever. But whatever I'm feeling, I paint it. You know what I mean? And I look at it, and it's like, okay, that's what I was feeling. So yeah, I express my feelings through painting too, as well as writing.
Craig, you got something another outlet?
I mean, music always, like, that's my life, music. But I think, like, just getting together with my other brothers, man, that I grew up with in prison, man, I think that would like be my biggest outlet, man. When we get together, man, it always brighten my day. Just if we see each other in passing, like, you know what I mean, like the day we met up today. We ain't even meet up. We just was at the same, a few of us was at the same place eating breakfast today, man. That's the type of stuff that, you know what I mean, that helped me.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. So now before we go to this mirror tutorial real quick, I do want to say one thing. Say the date for Giving Tuesday. This is on November 29th, and it's an International Day of Giving, where your donation is double. So in the meantime, if you want to support our work, you could also hit the donate button on our website, freemindsbookclub.org. There will be a link in the chat, and you already know that every little bit helps. Even if it's $1, that's $1 we will use to send mail to our members. So now let us turn to the Miro, and just a few tips on Miro. It just is real easy to use, and it's just 5 things that you basically just got to remember, right? First is the arrow. When you turn it blue, basically you activate it and it lets you start writing. You could enlarge the screen if the poem seemed too small or too big. It's at the lower right corner. You can zoom in, zoom out. Then back to the icon where the T is at, that's T for text. You bring it over to anywhere on the board for real, and just start typing dear. We always address the members by their first name, try to make it like a friendly environment. That's first and foremost. And then you just connect to the poem. That's one of the advice I always give everybody. It's like, be sincere, connect. A lot of these poems talk about prison. It doesn't fit in, doesn't have to be a physical prison. It could be an emotion, a depth, anything, and you could relate to the poem. So just write how you connect to the poem, and then just end by a first name, whether if it's yours or a made up one. And then that's it. And the other thing is how to scroll, from left to right, just right click and drag. And that's pretty much it. And there will be 4 mirror tables. Each one has different poems. So make sure to click on all of them. In the first page in the mirror board, you will also see the links to these boards. And also there's a link to a Google Doc, just in case you have problems, like phones mostly give a lot of problems. So click on the Google Doc, and it's the same poems. And if you will find it easier to respond there if the phone gives you problems. And just in case any kind of tech stuff, any kind of questions or issues, there is a phone number there you could reach out to. So definitely, I want to thank everybody for coming. At this time, you can click on the mirror link, and then continue to be a part of this Write Night by giving the feedback. Please enjoy the poems, and we look forward to seeing you next January. This is our last Write Night for the year. So our next Write Night will be in January 2023. So we'll be closing it soon momentarily. So make sure you click on that link, and that's in the chat. Any problems, just reach out to us, and we'll definitely get to you and respond as soon as possible. Thank you, and everybody have a great night. Craig, Quentin, thank you.
Much love, man.
Carlos.
John, thank you.
Right.
Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
It's a pleasure.